Have you ever heard the saying that says you can't train a horse with shouts and expect it to obey a whisper? Well, this video is going to break this saying down in every possible way. Let's go. Now let me just jump here real quick and say thank you to the 6,000 plus subscribers who have subscribed to my channel. I could not do it without your support, and I appreciate you very much. Now, statistically speaking though, 15 to 20% of the people who actually watch my channel are actually subscribed to the channel. So if you're not subscribed yet, just subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you can be notified when we post a new video. And if you find any value in my content, then please smash that like button, as it helps tell YouTube that we're doing a good job and helps me reach more people. So back to the video. Now, we can all agree that whatever method you're using, horses learn with pressure release. Now, we all want the same thing. We want horses that respond to feather-light, fingertip type of pressure, yet can tolerate a ton amount of pressure when needed to get the job done. Now, in the following video, I'm going to break down pressure release training into 5 basic principles that I apply in my day-to-day training program, and we're going to break these down in as much detail as possible. Now, we'll start this off with looking at how to channel that pressure. Second, we're going to look at how to use the hot and cold game in order to develop what we're after. Third, we're going to look at the development period, where I have a fun analogy on how to understand better this part of the training program. 4, we're going to look at the hands and leg positions, which play a very big role in the pressure release training method. And 5 is going to be the core element, most important thing in my entire training program, and I think that this is going to be the thing that's going to shine the most light for everyone as far as pressure release training goes, and that's going to be the point of resistance. Now, this is a very fun topic, so if you can hang in there until then, I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this. So if you're ready, let's do this. Now, channeling the pressure, what does that mean? Well, that means that when you apply pressure to something, it must have an outlet. There must be a way to escape that pressure. Now, if you compare a horse to something very simple as a ketchup packet, and you take an unopened ketchup packet without the corner torn off or anything, and then you just squeeze it, just put pressure all over it, to the sides, to the corner, or you can mimic your hands and legs on a horse and just put pressure like that. But what's going to happen is that at some point in time, the pressure is going to have to go somewhere, and it's probably not going to be somewhere that it's not where you intended for it to go, and it's probably going to end up in your face. So this thing is going to explode. And I think that that's very similar to horses. I think when too much pressure is applied with the hand and legs on a horse, and there is no clear outlet as to where that pressure needs to go out, this is when horses explode. And this happens way too often, in my opinion. So let me break this down. You need to turn your horse into a ketchup packet, and that inside front is your outlet. This is where everything goes. Wherever that front leg points towards to, or where it travels towards to, is where you want to channel that energy. You want to push everything through there. So if it's a ketchup packet, that's the corner that you open up. Now that you have an open ketchup packet, if you put a lot of pressure on it, no matter where you'll put that pressure, it's going to be very clear to that ketchup packet where that outlet is. It's in the top corner, and that's going to go straight out of there. And so you're never going to have any problem, and you're going to not risk to be ketchup sprayed all over your face. So with that analogy out of the way, we're going to talk about how to channel that pressure, and I call pressure energy. I make a lot of reference to energy in my training program and in my prior videos, but basically energy, in a way, is pressure. So when I apply leg and hand pressure, it's very important that I channel this through the respective diagonal, whether I'm going left or right, so pushing from that outside hind through that inside front leg, and this is how I'm going to channel that energy. Now, whether I'm going in a counter trot or counter canter, or I'm going into a small circle to the left, or even going into a spin to the left, and I'm working my left diagonal, I'm always looking to have forward motion. I'm looking for that energy to go from that outside hind through that inside, and my hands and legs are going to apply pressure in order to get my horse to use its body in the most effective and deepest give and position in order to execute any maneuver to perfection. But I'm going to help my horse find that place by applying leg and hand pressure. Now, it's really important that I'm always very clear about where that pressure needs to go. Now, that's where the next principles are going to come into play. But just to finish on channeling the pressure, is that once you found how to channel that pressure, just like if it would be like an endless ketchup packet, you want to have always a flow, like a very constant, steady flow of that energy, of that pressure going out through that outlet when you're going forward, especially if you're circling or even if you're spinning or whatever you're doing. Once you're in movement, once you're in motion and you say, okay, let's channel that energy through that diagonal, you want that flow to be consistent no matter where you're going, whether you're steering in, whether you're going straight, whether you're going counter-canter. Until you ask your horse to stop, you should always have that flow of energy channeled through that diagonal. Now, some things may disrupt that flow of energy. Let's say that you are going straight and your horse is somewhat using its body, okay, and channeling that pressure, that energy through the diagonal, and then you're going to be going into a counter-canter in order to set him up for a lead change or work on just increasing that drive through that diagonal. Well, then you're going to need to apply extra hand pressure and extra leg pressure in some areas in order to make the horse give you more. At some point in time, this is where a horse may say, hey, no, that's too hard for me, and may resist your leg, may resist your hand, and how you react to that is going to be very important. Now, this I compare to that, let's say, that outlet or that hole at the end of the ketchup packet reducing in size. You're losing that outlet. The horse is losing sight of that outlet because all of a sudden you've directed his attention to more spur pressure, more leg pressure, more hand pressure, and then you're creating a little bit of a, you can sense a resistance, you can sense a brace coming. So this is what I call a disruption in the flow. When that happens, you need to shut down the faucet and you need to work on the respective areas and drills and exercises that you've built over time or that you potentially still need to build in order to fix this area, so that the next time you go into this area, you didn't justify that disruption in the flow by increasing pressure in a moment where the pressure needed to be reduced, okay? So this is where also it's a very fine line, because a lot of the times there's a disruption in the flow when there's not enough forward motion, there's not enough flow channeling that pressure through that diagonal, that energy to that diagonal. So the number one solution here is often going to be to just add more leg and drive more, okay? So that should be the first thing that you do. If at the time that you do that, this is where that outlet sort of shuts down on you and you feel that your horse is just really bracing, then you probably need to not add more pressure and you probably just need to slow this down, break it down a little bit and try it again. So this is where it's very important to be a really good judge of the reason why you're meeting resistance or a disruption in your flow when you're working through your diagonals, no matter which maneuver you're doing. And it's going to be your job to be a good job of character. Now, giving the horse the benefit of the doubt is often going to keep you out of trouble, and it is my recommendation. Paying close attention to what the feet are doing is also going to be a very big help in helping your horse find that outlet when you're needing it to, okay? So like I said in the beginning, like that, wherever that front inside leg is extending its stride to, its range of motion is going towards to, this is the direction that you're channeling that energy to, and this is where that's your pressure outlet, okay? So if you're going into a spin, you're going to want that, you're going to want to feel his feet move in that direction. So if you're asking your horse to go into a spin or to go into a pivot or whatever, or turn 90 degrees or 100 degrees that direction, and then at some point when you come with your hands and your leg, or if you're just steering, for example, and you meet resistance, at that point in time, if you focus on the feet and forget the body, often this is going to make the body do the right thing, because all of a sudden the horse is going to forget. If you forget their body, they may forget your hands and your leg and think about their feet. If you focus on their feet, and then once they start to think about moving their feet, usually that resistance will go away, okay? So we don't always want to result with in fixing these resistance issues with more hands or leg pressure. We may just need to stay exactly where we're at, focus on the feet, and when we feel the feet move in the right direction, release and offer that release there, and hopefully point the horse into the right direction. This brings me to principle number 2, which is the hot-cold game, okay? So when you feel that resistance, this is a choice you have to make, and whether you add more pressure, stay there, or what you need to do. So feeling the feet moving in a certain direction, and the direction that you intend for them to go, and forget a little bit more about the body and keeping things more simple is often going to be a good solution. But what I like to do also, if I'm at the time focused on the body position, and I want my horse to learn to give to my hand and give to my leg as I'm asking my horse to steer or go straight or whatever, I'm expecting my horse to learn to give to my hands and stuff, I'm going to play this game that I call the hot-cold game, okay? So and this is going to usually be in horses, in brand new things that I teach to horses, or horses that are really green or really starting. For example, in the first, let's say, couple of weeks or first four weeks of training, once I've done my, my flexions and my horse knows how to follow its nose, and I have fairly good enough control over the forward motion and the front feet of my horses, this is where I'll introduce my horse to collection. So when I do that, I'm going to apply a light amount of pressure into the horse's mouth and drive with my legs. I'm going to keep this very simple. I'm not going to expect my horse to collect itself 100% from the start, but I'm going to want the horse to give me something. So it doesn't really know what I want, so I'm going to apply pressure until it finds what I want. Okay, so this is important, not apply too much pressure, just apply the right amount of pressure. But then when the horse may not have given you 100%, but you feel that at the pole there's been a slight give in a direction where your hands are pointing, and your horse thought about using its body a little bit better to go there, well, you can release that slightly, as in, yes, you're getting warm, okay, this is the direction I want you to go. So you can offer a release even though you didn't quite get 100% what it is that you're after, but your horse may have resisted your demand because it wasn't sure where to channel that energy to, and then once it kind of found the direction, at least, into which you want to go, and it's made a move in that good direction, then offering a mild release right there and taking right away again, just playing that hot-cold game is a good way to give the horse a little bit of a better idea how to get away from the pressure that you're applying and how to and what you're trying to accomplish there. It's just really important to be careful to not release when the horse does something, that is not what you're after, because at some point in time, the release is still what tells the horse that it's doing what it's supposed to get away from the pressure that you're applying wherever it's coming from. So releasing at a time that you didn't obtain 100% what it is that you wanted may lead to some trouble. So use this cautiously, but it is a pretty effective method at the beginning to stay out of trouble and give your horse a hint of what it is it's supposed to do when you're applying leg and hand pressure. 3 is a fairly simple principle. It's just like the developing period when I'm teaching my horses to really use their body 100%. Now I'm past playing the hot-cold game. My horse knows it needs to get away from my hand, and it needs to bring that energy from its neck into its body, but it's not broke enough to yield the hindquarters or control the shoulders enough to really work in diagonals. So I'm basically doing like the pull and kicking game with my horse, and this is a period that I don't quite enjoy that much because I feel like it's quite senseless for the horses, but it's quite an important period, so I try to make it as clear and as simple as possible. That's why at the beginning I said that I've got this analogy that's quite childish, but yet a very good way to explain how I teach my horse to really give to my hands and my legs in a simple way. And that's sort of like the same way as I would teach someone to stay underwater. Now if you come to me and you say, I would like to learn to go underwater, and I push you down really deep and I just keep you there, and I'm like, you gotta learn to stay underwater, all you're going to want to do is come out of the water, push against me, brace against me, fight me, because you need to come up for air and I'm forcing you down. So this is what, teaching the horse to get away from the hand and leg pressure, basically collecting your horse, teaching your horse to collect. This is why it's really important to start light at the beginning, maybe not go too deep into the water, and maybe start with 1 or 2 seconds or 5 seconds at a time, and then once you've stayed down, or your horse has given you a little something, then allow your horse a full release, even if it gets undone and gets out of position. If at that moment in time you allow the person to come out and get a good deep breath, and then it's going to be a lot more confident and trustworthy at letting you go back into the water for maybe a potentially longer period of time or a little bit deeper in the water. Again, a very childish analogy, but this is the same thing with collection. So whenever I'm asking my horse to give me a full deep collection, although there isn't no really clear purpose for it, whenever my horse does give me something, I will release that with a full release, knowing full well that at the beginning my horse may just fall apart or come undone or really stretch out and release. But if I try to keep it in that frame or keep it there, its body is not really trained to just stay there very long. And I think that although it could possibly stay there a little bit longer, I think that it's better to just go the same as training your body and stretching or whatever we're doing, or teaching someone to go underwater. I think that it's good to go really, really deep, but for a short period of time, and then offer a full release. And then even if everything gets out of whack, still just take it back, release, take it back, release, until the horse has confidence as to where it needs to go to get away from that pressure. And eventually, whenever you will release, the horse is not going to be bracy, it's not going to be resisting your contact, and it's going to be not going to be worried about what it is that you want. So playing the pull deep and release fully game is going to be very helpful in giving the horse confidence to go deep into collection and allow itself to give you that type of body control. This brings me to principle number 4, which is basically going to be your hands and legs position. It's very important to be super clear with your hands and leg where that horse should channel that energy to. Your hands and legs is what's going to be channeling, guiding that energy through that diagonal in order for the horse to know how to use its body and where to channel that pressure to. And so there are very many ways to use your hand. This is why that using our hands sometimes lower or wider at the beginning is just helping keeping that, let's say, that in the front and up door wide open, because this is what we want to do. This is why I've said in videos that people who learn to work their horse's body at the beginning but are making the mistake of sitting too forward, looking down too much, sitting on their thighs and concentrating all that energy above the shoulders, basically shutting, kind of closing that outlet. And then this is why the horses then eventually learn to push down on the bridle and not lift their shoulders, and then the outlets are going to be to the sides, and they're not going to be forward and up an elevated shoulder and straight through the diagonal like we're after. And so that's why that it's very important that when you're doing this, your legs need to really be in a position and accentuate the position of the diagonal by bringing your outside leg back a little bit further. Especially the harder and the more you're going to be using your outside leg, I think the further back it should be, and your inside leg the further forward it should be, in order to really stretch out that scissoring position, mimicking the movement of extending that diagonal. I think that keeping your legs in both the same spot and just pushing with both of them is not going to be it's just going to be compressing that rib cage and not giving a horse the clear outlet direction that it's supposed to take. So exaggerating that movement, sitting deeper on your pockets is going to be your solution there. And the same thing with your hands. Sometimes I'll have my inside hand way ahead of my outside hand, which is closing that door here, because let's say that I'm pushing my horse in that direction. Well, I don't want my horse to find the outside shoulder, to have the outside shoulder as an outlet. So my rein and hand is going to be there closing that outlet. My leg is closing this one. This leg is closing this one, channeling that energy forward through that diagonal, and my hand is pointing the direction where that energy should be going, where that outlet is. Okay, so I'm going to exaggerate that body position and the position of my hands and legs to really be clear as to and help my horse find that outlet. Okay, so this is where it's going to be very important to not to keep in mind that to really sit back, open up your shoulders, stay up and look far, be far ahead in your horse's mind, and have that forward motion, and try to avoid clamping down your shoulders, looking down, pulling towards you and putting a lot of leg pressure, just kind of shutting that door up there, and then just having that energy build up into your horse and not having an outlet, which ultimately could end up in some pretty bad results. So this is my advice on leg and hands position. Now the final and most important element is going to be the point of resistance. Now I think in my training program, and I think in all training programs, this is the key element of understanding pressure release training, and that's knowing and feeling that point of resistance. At some point in time, it could be very early on in the contact, it could be pretty deep in the contact, but at some point in time, you're going to meet resistance when asking your horse to give its body 100%. It may be at 20%, at 50%, or at 80% of the way you will meet resistance. resistance. How you react at that point in time is going to define how you are as a rider. This is why that the point of resisting and feeling that point of resistance is very important. That's why that I stress in all of my videos that it's really important to be very slow with your hands. You can pull hard in a horse as long as you pull slow. The reason is because at some point in time through that pull, you will meet resistance. If you pull too fast, too hard, you will bust through that point of resistance and then you're going to meet the brace, okay? And we're trying to avoid that, okay? So just prior to a horse fighting you or bracing against you or worse is a point of resistance. I would not pass that point of resistance as much as I can. I would stop at that point of resistance, and there, like I said in the other principles, is adjust my body position to help my horse as much as possible, channel that pressure and energy through that diagonal. And I would increase pressure, obviously, with my legs, potentially, or use my voice, or if it's something as basic as teaching a young horse to lead that's just getting halter broke, it doesn't know how to give to halter pressure. So what do? We pull towards us until we meet a light amount of pressure. Whenever you meet that resistance with a foal or any horse that's getting halter broke, if at that point in time you pull fast or hard past that point of resistance, it's going to be ugly. You're going to kick the instinct of fight and flight into the horse really strongly, and then it's going to be you against the horse. And you try to never want to get there. You want to meet that point of resistance, and then you want to give the horse the time to think and act and make a choice. And then it can be encouraged with a little bit more pressure from the voice, the leg, guidance, whatever you want to call it. But this is where you need to come into play and say, okay, don't panic here. What I'm asking you, there's a way out of it, and take the time to find it, and I'll help you find it so that you can offer a release, hopefully a reward, and then go again. And then the more that you're going to repeat that, then you're going to get rid of those points of resistance. And like I gave you that very basic example, but that's where it starts, okay? So that's why the halter breaking a young horse or the groundwork that you do in the round pen before you start training your horses is vital. It's super important. That's the first part where you teach your horse how to react to pressure. And it's very important that your horse under pressure can trust you and your guidance, okay? So this is why I consider this part of the training, of the pressure release training, no matter how basic or how advanced you do it, the most critical part. Now, to learn what to do and how to react when you meet those points of resistance in any situation on your journey to training your horse from foundation to finished horse, be sure to visit the Comfort Zone Horse Training video series. There is countless hours of all of the training, drills, exercises, and tools that I build into my horses until throughout their training journey, so that whenever I meet those situations where various types of horses will react different ways. This is why that I think that there's not enough that can be said about each situation and how to handle each situation, but having a stacked and effective tool bag, ready to go when you're going to work on your horses is going to be fundamental here. And this is what I offer you through this online video series. So if you are not subscribed to that yet, I recommend you to give it a shot. 7-day free trial. Just browse through everything. You'll have full access to everything, and if something that you find any value in, then you can give it a shot for a few months or save some money and subscribe yearly. There will be new content added every week. We're just getting started. You can also interact with me from this. I am more than happy to help virtually and sometimes even in person. My subscribers, I am here for you. And again, I've enjoyed making this video. If you found any value in it, please give it a like. And if you are not subscribed to this channel yet, please do so, as it helps me grow and reach more people. Again, it's been fun doing this video. I cannot wait to see you in the next one. See ya.